one of your videos I was watching, and you laid out this spectrum of the densities and the colors and the qualities of each density. And when Ross says, if you're going to evolve, do these things. Like, he gave us like a little cheat sheet, as you will, to, how to evolve. And one of them was, and this is my translation, this is not quoting, that when you are out in the world in your daily life, and for the sake of this conversation, in your love life, treat the other person with kindness and respect, like another human. They are another soul. They are another entity. They are you. And I think in terms of dating, we forget about that. I think that's part of the overall disillusion of, you're separate from me and I don't trust you. I don't know you. And there conjures up all of this. And so feel free to remark on that. And then also, if you want to give us more of what Ross says that we need to do to evolve.
Yeah, so this is where we can kind of move it into the idea of the sexual energy exchange. The meat of the law of one is in understanding the difference of polarities, positive and negative polarities, or masculine, feminine, we like to say. And I want to preface this by saying that the law of one and Ra in the law of one makes very clear that the law is one means all is equally valid. There's not like positive doesn't mean good and negative doesn't mean bad. It's literally just like chemistry. An electron can have a positive charge or a negative charge. And Ra explains both are equally valid expressions or experiences of the creator. So there's no judgment towards the negative path any less than there is of the positive path from a higher perspective. Now, we here in third density, with our lower consciousness way of thinking, we tend to label negative equals evil, bad, wrong, positive equals good and appropriate. But it doesn't work like that. It's just two different experiences you can choose to have. But that being said, those two experiences you can have carry very different consequences. And those consequences aren't wrong, again, but there are consequences to both ways of engaging with reality. So essentially, we are here at this stage of our soul's evolution to choose between those two polarities. And like I just mentioned, you'll keep coming back here infinite amount of lifetimes until your soul finally chooses, do I want to be positively polarized or negatively polarized? And once you choose a polarity, then your consciousness can really start evolving to higher densities, higher states of consciousness, where you can access all these abilities we see that extraterrestrials have, the way they can travel here through thought, and the UFO technology we witness all the time in the news. All of this is being done through their consciousness. Like, technology is obsolete at their level of evolution. So if we want to get there, we have to choose a polarity first, which means you commit yourself to love or you commit yourself to separation. That's the positive and the negative, right?
Ooh.
So where this is interesting, Jessica, is how it relates to our sexuality. And once you understand that whenever you engage in a sexual encounter, you are either exchanging positive energy or negative energy, whether you know that or not. And where it gets more interesting is that it happens through the chakras. The energy transfer happens through the energy centers. So assuming that most people listening have a basic understanding of the chakras, I'll just summarize by saying that the lower three chakras, the root chakra, which is at the base, kind of between the legs, where the legs meet, sacral chakra, which is in like the lower abdominal kind of intestines area, or just above the genitals, actually. And then the third chakra is the solar plexus, which is in like the upper abdomen. Those are the three negatively polarized chakras, or you could think of it as like the South Pole, kind of like Earth has a North and a South Pole. So the negative polarity is that which attracts to itself, which absorbs, it's magnetic, draws into itself. The negative polarity is to possess, to claim, to own, right?
Would you say it's more primal as well?
Exactly. Yeah. They're also referred to as the primal energy centers, the animalistic
Right.
energies of our makeup. And again, equally valid, an equally valid expression of what we are.
Right. Because if for us to be whole and complete, we have to have them all balanced, healthy, catered to, right?
Yes.
And, it goes back to that, it's not good or bad. It's like, no, if our root chakra is out, it throws off the system a little bit. So
Yes.
they're important,
Yeah. It's
nonetheless.
100. It's of primary importance, actually. And most of what Ra spends their time talking about in the Law of One is how to balance those lower three. That's really the major work that we as humans have to do. And it's a very rare being who balances their primal centers and has access to the heart chakra, which opens the person to universal love with all beings. And that's where happiness is found, joy, peace, fulfillment, satisfaction at the heart chakra level. So to get the energy to meet the heart chakra, you got to unblock the lower three. And so the positive path evolves in polarity by unblocking the energy center and letting energy flow freely. But the negative path polarizes by blocking and distorting the chakras further and further and further until you have so many blocks that you actually have built sort of like a fortress in yourself, a barrier of separation between yourself and your environment. And so for that reason, Ra classifies the positive polarity as service to others, love-based. The positive polarity is radiating, the opposite of the negative. Negative is magnetic, absorbing. Positive is radiating or outgiving. So the negative polarity is that which is service self. It's all about me. And so here where we get into sexual energy transfer, Ra explains that those lower three centers represent, like Jessica just said, kind of your primal nature. So the red ray root chakra represents literally your animal nature, which is just two things. It's your survivability and your sexuality. So red ray or root chakra blockages happen whenever there's a fear of survival or safety, that will block red ray, or some kind of negative trauma or fear around sexuality. That'll also create a blockage there. Orange ray is the second one, and that represents our relationship to ourself. So our emotional world, our personal history, personal traumas, the way we feel about ourselves, how much we like or dislike ourselves. So the orange ray or sacral chakra will be blocked by disliking myself, judging myself, resisting any aspect of myself, and vice versa. Liking myself, accepting myself will unblock that center. And then the third primal center is the yellow ray, solar plexus, which represents our relationship to the other. So people like politicians, leaders, teachers, these are people who are very active in yellow ray. They've mastered and learned to a great extent how to have relationships with others, either in a positive way or in a negative way. A negative way would be like people who are really slick with their words, and they know how to carry a certain persona that gets you to see them a certain way, maybe as superior or whatever. And they can polarize by gaining your power from you. That's always how the negative polarizes. So taking power or acquiring power from another is how I enhance myself if I'm a negatively polarized being. And so in sexual energy exchange, Ra explains that if you are having a sexual encounter with somebody and either person is seeing themselves or the other as being possessed or doing the possessing, or being dominated or doing the dominating, that is a negatively polarized energy transfer. And I think you would probably agree that that's, I would imagine, 80 to 90% of the sexual encounters that happen in our culture. Very rare sexual encounters are actually based on love and based on, I want to fulfill you in this exchange rather than fulfill myself through this exchange.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I see it on the daily. One of my friends, teacher, colleague, his name is Swami Dharmananda. he was giving a lecture and we were sitting together, and he told the group, he said, the problem with Western relationships are, we're all asking, what can you do for me? What are you going to do for me? And I feel like that's how we operate when we're in those lower chakras. It's like, I need you to do something for me. I need you to give me something. I need you to give me attention. I need you to give me love. I need you to give me an orgasm. I need you to give me,
Right.
Make me feel good about me. And yeah, it's something that I'm sure many people listening definitely feel that. And
Yeah.
we
And
can feel it within ourselves.
Fulfilling me, sorry, I was going to say, the minute you stop fulfilling me, I'm going to break up with you.
Right. Yes.
That's the general mode of relationships.
Exactly. And when it comes to the energetic exchanges, I really believe that most people can feel them too when they're in that moment. If you tune in and listen to yourself, your partner, the environment, you listen to your intuition, you'll feel that, like, ooh, this is really, to use modern day terms, to be mainstream, it's like, oh, this is definitely a hookup. This is definitely a hookup, because we are not using chakras above our waist.
No.
A word that I've been saying a lot this week is fear. And I believe that a lot of people, when they're operating within those lower chakras, there's a lot of fear there. And something that gets me with dating these days, and we're going to come back to this energy exchange, I'm just diverting a little bit. Something that gets me is how catching feels is a terrible thing.
Isn't that funny?
I'm like, then what are we doing here? Why are we even trying to date or be together, to spend time together, if we're not going to feel goodness? And so going back to the chakras and the energy exchanges, it seems as though in our society at this point in time, it's more often than not, people are operating in those lower realms.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And what you just said is explained in a very profound way in the Law of One, of why that happens. Why do people get to this place where they've hooked up with so many people and had so many flings and gone from person to person for so long that they're so desensitized that when they do finally find a person who they can connect with and form intimacy with, they're afraid of that and they resist that. Ra explains that basically the reason that happens is because negatively polarized sexual energy exchanges create more blockages in those centers, and blockages leave this unending, unquenchable thirst for more. It leaves the one with the blockage is left even more unsatisfied, like needing even more to have that same experience happen. So it's all ego based, and in a sense, the ego's kind of mode of operation is always like seek but do not find, right? You're seeking for fulfillment, but you never actually get it. Like you'll get maybe a short little, sort of like a drug hit when you when a drug addict shoots up or something. There's that little brief moment of relief from the pain and the suffering, and I'm high, I feel great, and then it wears off quickly, and they're just even more craving that high again. That's what happens to us sexually when we continue to have these negatively polarized energy exchanges with people. And again, that's not wrong. That's the nature of the negative polarity. It's distorting. It's high entropy. It's supposed to be imbalanced. Balance is the positive polarity. So by its nature, the negative is the opposite of whatever the positive is. So when you do meet somebody who you can actually see their true self, their beautiful aspects, their authentic expression, and you begin to find that love for this being, then in that hookup kind of culture, it's like, I'm catching feels. I can't have that, because that means I would have to commit to this person and stop my endless seeking and quest to satisfy this lust, which never will and cannot be satisfied. That's the point of it, is to keep that seeking going, which eventually, if you continue to polarize down the negative path, Ra explains that like negatively polarized extraterrestrials use sexual energy as a very powerful means of conquering and enslaving others. And Ra even says that the highest form of a negative energy exchange in sex would be like when the dominator achieves orgasm, and they say, but the dominated or the possessed entity almost never does. It's like the point of the dominator to please itself without pleasing the dominated. So there's that, you're the object of my possession, and I become more powerful, more satisfied, whatever, enhanced because I conquered you. And again, that's basically what hookup culture is. Men are on this endless, unquenchable journey to conquer as many women as they can. And it's like, for most of these guys, they've been doing this since they were a teenager. And then they become that sort of creepy 50-year-old guy at the bar who's still trying to pick up 20-year-olds. And they're just now what are you going to do? Now you can't be a ladies' man when you're 60 anymore. And so it creates a ton of suffering. And there's so much blockage now in their energy centers that they're not even capable of a loving relationship without first doing a lot of spiritual work on themselves to cleanse those distortions out of the system. So again, the energy can finally make its way up to the heart and they can connect with somebody. So there are consequences to that behavior. Not that those consequences are bad necessarily. It's just a matter of what do you want, right? Can you be honest with yourself and look in the mirror and say, okay, I want love. I want intimacy and connection with another soul. If that's what you want, then you have to commit to the positive path, which means stop giving your energy away to people. Stop receiving other people's negative energy, because every single encounter you have is paying a consequence in your energy body.
That's beautiful guidance right there. It's when you encounter someone, taking the temperature, the spiritual temperature, and it's like, woo, is this going to enhance or hurt me now? I need to be, I always say, being very discerning is key. And the secret.
Discernment's everything.
Oh, it is everything. And oh my gosh, Aaron, all that you said there, I'm like, and we could have stopped at any point and gone down these different routes. And, talking about the 60-year-old like playboy that, he's not reliant on, his looks anymore. And, just using that as an example as, the midlife crisis, or, really just the moment of immense pain. If it's a 60-year-old playboy, or if it's a 23-year-old college girl, or, the whole spectrum, I think one of the keys to getting us to reevaluate of how we are operating with the sexual energy and where we are personally with our spiritual growth is a lot of it has to do with pain and suffering. And you talk about that a lot on your channel, and ego and suffering and all that good stuff. And it's a lot. And we see it so, it's so in our face with our culture. That I love my hip hop. I love rap. Like I listen to the worst of it or the best of it. And I love being a human at this time. I love exploring the pleasures of life and, all that good stuff. Yet it is so in our face. You were talking about the dominating, and it's just really, really fascinating. A little scary. I can't lie. It's a little scary.
I know. A little bit of a wake up call, right? But it's not scary in the sense that you're not going to become a fully like negatively polarized being just through sex or something. Like it's in the sense, if you're trying to become positively polarized, choose the path of love and light, and you want your soul's evolution to go up that path. If that's what you want, then it's just like, hey, just know that every one of these sexual encounters you're having are just taking your positive charge away. It's just making it harder for you to evolve. It's not going to like drag you into the darkness or something like that. Right. But there are consequences to it. And one of the things you just mentioned is the suffering it brings. Another really huge point to this that has to be mentioned is that another, again, natural consequence of the negative path, which is the path of separation, is that these distortions we build up, these blockages, and this sort of like itch that can't be scratched that is created as a result of that, becomes more and more distorted as that seeking to satisfy that itch gets worse and worse, which is why we see slowly the sexual desires will become more for like kink and bondage and more stuff like that. And eventually, in some cases, this is where we get distortions like pedophilia and any kind of what we would classify as bad or evil or wrong kind of sexual encounter, where there's not like rape, pedophilia, these kinds of things. Those are negative blockages in the energy center that have gotten so blocked that they're now having to express in this fashion, because again, it can't be satisfied. It just keeps distorting further and further. So people that watch pornography, for example, they get addicted to porn, and can they watch porn one day and go, oh, I did it. I satisfied the urge and now I'm good. I don't ever need to watch porn again. No,
I know.
You need it worse every day.
Yes.
And then the kinds of porn they need get, again, more and more distorted, right? They can't be turned on by the same things they were, because they're so desensitized now. Yeah. And so the beautiful thing is the positive path is the very opposite of that, is that the more positively you polarize, the more love and intimacy and connection there is with the being that you're having sexual intimacy with, the more satisfying and enriching it is, the more it leaves you feeling a sense of euphoria and fulfillment and happiness and connection and love and oneness. And that only continues to get more, you get more sensitive to it and more powerful with it. Mm-hmm. So again, it's just important to know that these are the way polarities work, and you should make a choice.
That's right. And I encourage my clients frequently to take a time out. And I always say, act like you're a scientist and you're just going to go observe. So that way people aren't looking at themselves and judging themselves and like, oh, I shouldn't have slept with that girl the other night, or
right.
Those, I shouldn't have done this, and, bring on that shame and everything. It's like, just hit pause on your love life, on your sex life, and just say, okay, how have I been operating? What experiences have I been experiencing? What feelings am I feeling? How am I left feeling after a sexual encounter? Just start to ask questions,
yes,
again, very kindly, and see what comes up. And then from there you can go, oh, okay, I realize that when I'm having sex with someone, I shut down, or I'm trying to dominate, or I'm feeling scared and unsafe.
Or I feel guilty afterwards or something.
Guilty. Yes. I just put another notch in my belt, whatever it is, examining that. And you can course correct at any time,
Absolutely.
time.
Yes. That's the beauty of it. You're never out of the game. You never lose the game. You just choose the rule set you want to play by. Okay. So if that negative path that I explained is the one you want, that's equally valid. You can have that path, but it's like they're two mutually opposing thought systems. Like they don't agree anywhere. So you can't, I like to use the analogy of like soccer and basketball. Like you can't play soccer and basketball at the same time, right? Because in one sport, you cannot ever even touch the ball with your hands. You have to kick it. But the other sport, you cannot kick it. You have to touch it with your hands. So the moment you try to even engage with the game by a different rule set, you lose the game. It doesn't work. Yep. And there's a lot of people not realizing they're kind of doing that. It's like, I want love, I want romance, I want intimacy, but like, I just keep going out every weekend, trying to hook up with a new guy to find it, or a new girl to find it. And it's like, that's actually, just understand, that's making you even more desensitized to finding love the more you give your energy to somebody that you haven't established a connection with. Right. And so the question becomes like, well, Aaron, like how soon is too soon then to have sex with somebody I'm dating? Like, when is it positive or negative? And the answer is really your own heart is the only one that can tell you when you feel safe with this person. Like, oh, I know their intentions are the same as mine. They're not just telling me what I want to hear, so I'll take my pants off for them, right? Mm-hmm. They're not just they're not just putting on a character they think I want, but this person really cares about me. They want to get to know me. We have the same intention. Then at that point, the sexual encounter is to enhance that connection.
Right.
Because you're both looking for it, right? That's when it's going to be a positively polarized thing versus like, again, just hookup sex is just about a quick momentary gratification. You're hot, I'm hot. We can enhance each other if we hook up and we'll feel better tomorrow. Boom, let's do it. But really it was all about possessing the other, using them as a means to feel better about myself. And that's just a negatively polarized exchange. So it becomes very simple in that light, and your own heart is your own guidance system.
This is just, Law of One always blows my mind.
It's mind-blowing stuff, isn't it?
It is. It is so beautiful.